Good morning and welcome to the Fiscal Philosophy YouTube channel. So I'm a value investor, and while I don't own shares of Berkshire Hathaway, I certainly have heard of Berkshire Hathaway, and I certainly know who Charlie Munger was. We unfortunately, we did get the news last night that he unfortunately has passed away at the age of 99. And, I'm sure he has a legacy, with his family as, a father, husband, cousin, brother, friend, and what have you. But I think for most of us in the investing community, his legacy is largely the impact he had on Berkshire Hathaway, his public legacy, if you will. And I think, that's some of the work he had done that was the most impactful to us in the investing community. And the contributions he made to Berkshire are probably too numerous to count. But I figured, for me, as someone who didn't know him personally, the best way to honor his legacy would just be to talk a little bit about Berkshire Hathaway today. So that's the stock we're going to discuss. Berkshire may be best known for their common stock portfolio that includes a lot of Apple and Coca-Cola stock, but the fact is that they're a holding company and basically a conglomerate that holds a lot of other subsidiaries fully, including companies like Dairy Queen, Geico, BNSF Railway, Duracell, Pilot Flying J, and so many more. I think that this is part of what makes Berkshire so intriguing beyond just their common stock portfolio, as well as difficult to really evaluate because they own so many companies fully that it's somewhat difficult to judge what the value of the whole is. Is it worth more than the sum of its parts? Almost certainly, but what is the value of each of the individual parts? That's a little bit harder to determine. Berkshire is also extremely difficult to evaluate from a net income perspective because there is an accounting rule that requires them to report unrealized gains and losses in their earnings on their common stock portfolio. So if the stock market happens to go down a lot, it could look like Berkshire is absolutely hemorrhaging money when in fact that is not necessarily the case and they haven't actually lost a dime. The same on the flip side. The most potentially useful financial ratio to evaluate the valuation of Berkshire might be the price to book value. They've actually previously used this as their own barometer for when it might be appropriate to do share repurchases. Previously, they had a 1.2 times price to book as their cutoff for share repurchases. However, a few years ago, they did remove that as a hard limit, and it's more or less up to the judgment of the board now. But prior to 2018 or so, it was, in fact, basically company policy that they would do buybacks anytime the share price was under 1.2 price to book. Of course, at the moment, the stock trades at a relatively beefy premium to that 1.2 price to book, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a poor buy. It really depends on how confident you are in management's ability to allocate capital effectively. Also, if you've made it this far, remember to confuse the like button by pressing it for 8 hours straight, and subscribe to the channel for more of my videos, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you always know when I upload. So, analyst estimates when it comes to Berkshire are, mostly positive for the price forecast over the next 12 months, and yes, more often than not, that's probably a good bet because the common stock portfolio will probably go up, as will a lot of the businesses that they own fully. Their revenues, etc., will probably go up. But any specific predictions about their earnings, etc., I would take with a big grain of salt, because you have to not only predict how 50 different subsidiaries are going to do, but also how will the stock market overall perform, because that's going to be indicative of how the common stock portfolio performs. Before I even really dive in, I think a DCF is probably of relatively minimal value for a company like Berkshire as far as figuring out a good price to pay. That being said, hey, if you take their current free cash flow, combine it with their tangible book value, and apply a 7.5% CAGR on it for the next 10 years, yes, you end up with Berkshire being, pretty close to fairly valued today. But I guess the big question here is the business, considering the fact it consists of so many other businesses, Berkshire itself isn't just a business. It is a holding company that contains many businesses. And the question is, on the whole, how well can you actually predict the future cash flows for the next 5, 10, 20 years for all of those companies? I think it would be quite the undertaking to do so predictably. But that being said, I think for me, I would kind of just consider this a just for fun exercise, and I would go based off the method that Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett and the board at Berkshire had previously been using as their barometer for when it's appropriate and accretive to do buybacks. And I would say, the 1.2 price to book threshold they had, I'm sure that there was some thought that had gone into that at the time. And so I would say at the point where Berkshire gets below that 1.2 price to book is where I would probably consider, okay, if this is where they previously had their ceiling for where they would do buybacks, then maybe that's a good entry point for the average person that can't really know the inner workings of all 50 plus subsidiaries that they fully own, plus the inner workings of all the companies that they have big swaths of in their common stock portfolio. I think if you're only buying Berkshire because you like what they have in their common stock portfolio, honestly, you're probably just better off buying those companies yourself, since they're available for everyone. I think if you're getting into Berkshire, it's because you want those other companies. You want Geico, you want Dairy Queen, you want BNSF, etc. And not just, Apple stock and Coca-Cola stock. If you want Apple and Coca-Cola, you can go ahead and buy Apple and Coca-Cola. And it may be also that, hey, you believe in the future decisions that, the remaining fund managers here at Berkshire, that you think their future picks are going to be maybe better than the average person, right? Now, granted, they have lost. I think what we can agree is one of their pillars of wisdom and somebody that was maybe like a check and a balance on what exactly they're doing with the capital at Berkshire, how they're allocating it. But even without Charlie, I think that the culture that Charlie and Warren have built at Berkshire, the philosophy that they have for how they run the business, how they allocate capital, I think that probably is going to remain as a lasting legacy long after today. And even Warren isn't much younger, and we may be facing a similar situation with him in the next few years. I mean, I hope not. I hope he makes it to 150, but hey, this kind of thing happens, and hopefully that they've built a strong enough lasting legacy at Berkshire that it will continue to be a good investment for the people who do have shares in Berkshire. Let me know if you got shares in Berkshire and how you came to the decision to buy it, what you think is a good method for valuing this company. If you made it to the end, I'd like to thank you for watching, and please remember to comment below with your thoughts on Berkshire and on Charlie Munger. Make sure that you join us on Discord, link is in the description, and consider subscribing to the channel and becoming a member to help support the work that I do here. Have a wonderful day.